People of Reddit, what stupid rule at your work/school backfired beautifully? I was working as a medical assistant at a private practice medical clinic. Our clinic manager wouldn't allow the new receptionist to drive to the bank to deposit cash. Made her walk carrying the money bag so that she couldn't drive away with the money. Bizarre. I know. That went on for a few weeks. Then the receptionist was mugged and over $1,000 in cash was stolen. She was allowed to drive after that, instead of having the risk of one person stealing the cash, who worked for them, and who they had all her personal identifying information. They made the risk anyone out, and about who may steal. Basic risk avoidance or reduction logic would have been good to use when they were thinking that one up. Edit, I've never seen so many upvotes before. Very cool. Thanks Reddit. Also, I fixed the typo in identifying as it was killing me. Carol, the office manager, was an idiot through and through. I was fired after a drug-seeking patient grabbed me by the throat and yelled at them to get out of the building. I should have called the police. Fuck that place. Fuck Carol. My boss started putting all staff required to start 15 minutes earlier than indicated on the roster. I started keeping track of my unpaid overtime and stung her for 3 paid days off. That's not required anymore. I worked for a company that did that. One lawsuit later, they don't do it anymore and owed a lot of us back pay. I hope strict labor laws comes to India. We fucking work 12 to 13 hours per day and gets a shit pay. Back in the early zeros, my high school implemented a policy that you had to wear your ID tag at all times. If you didn't have it on, you were sent home. So many students lost their ID tag to go grab food or skip a class. We were the only graduating class to wear them all 4 years. The policy ended soon after. My school had something similar, required IDs with provided lanyards. Failure to have it resulted in getting a shirt sticker from the office and a detention, which was aiding the custodial staff in the afternoon. Nobody liked this policy much, and a detention, which was aiding the custodial staff in the afternoon. Better than sticking a kid in a room, like glorified timeout. ICE, in school suspension, was always so fucking weird. You just sit in the same seat for 7 hours in a cinder block room that was always way too fucking cold, and if you even looked like you could talk you'd just get another ice at it. I'm jealous of all of your ICE experiences. Legit designed to be torturous without being obvious about it. Super cold. Dead silent. Not allowed to talk. Not allowed to work on stuff depending on if they're being an asshole. Sometimes not allowed to go to the cafeteria to get food even. And a one-way window, so you always feel watched. It's fucked up. I would much rather had out of school suspension. At least then I could have played RuneScape or something. Not mine, but an old roommate of mine was a senior developer for a small company. It was an open secret that one of the other senior devs, a guy who had been there since the beginning, would sometimes spend time looking at plastic surgery photos before/after shots, photos of active procedures, etc. He did it enough that people would poke fun at him about it, but he didn't seem embarrassed about it, and it wasn't harming anyone. Well, one day a project manager said something to the CEO about this guy's ongoing plastic surgery obsession, and the CEO flipped. He said that, going forward, no one was allowed to use their work computers to access external websites at all. Anyone who's ever been a developer knows that half the job is googling stuff. So this policy pretty much halted productivity in its tracks. It only lasted a day before the CEO retracted the rule, but let everyone know that their browser history would be monitored going forward. After that, no one really changed their behavior. They just started remotely accessing their home computers to browse instead. Yes, I'm going to outsmart computer programmers about how to use their time on the computers more effectively. I'm very smart. I worked at Starbucks for like 5+ years before and during undergrad, and at one point our district manager thought it was a good idea to implement a just say yes policy, where we literally weren't allowed to tell the customer no. Lasted for about 3 months, and in that 3 months our unaccounted product and waste went up over 300%, because when the post didn't have a way to punch in a customer request we had to just do it anyways. We also got complaints from stores in surrounding districts because they had angry customers who were requesting things that were against local food service code, and told them that we did it for them at our store. I knew exactly how that policy was going to play out, and I just laughed every time management was freaking out about the problems it was causing. Give me all the money in the cash register and make me a free iced coffee. Yes. If someone working there told me the policy and I walked up to the register and asked nicely, would you please put all the register money in this bag for me? Is that a crime? To be fair, almost every retail store requires employees to comply with that, even if they aren't in visible danger. So there's already a just say yes policy regarding that. Unfortunately, if you drove there, they have your license plate. If you walked, the cops would catch up before you got very far. My spouse's workplace realized they didn't have a policy about sending sexual images or jokes as part of their ML acceptable use policy, so they added it, except they made it a firing offense to send or receive sexual content. I think the intent was to stop people from subscribing to such content. They also said that your access would be immediately revoked until a determination was made. So someone got fired for something else and decided to send their whole management chain a graphically sexual image, then report it using the anonymous tip line. It got the report, concluded they did indeed receive sexual content, and it is required suspended all the involved ML accounts, including the SVPs. The policy has since been reworded. There's burning bridges, and then there's drying up the lake, just to fill it with gasoline. Damn. I'd assume that if you get fired, they are not exactly going to give you a glowing recommendation. Edit. I must admit I hadn't thought of the possibility of lawsuits. I'm from a country far less litigious than the USA. I'm not saying you couldn't sue for defamation where I am. It just hadn't crossed my mind. No recommendation, not a huge deal. But I wouldn't want people actively spreading my info and trying to blackball me either. Not a stupid rule, but I think this should apply. I'm in aviation maintenance and wanted to leave the current company that I worked for 12 years with. During my interview at the new company, I was asked why I was thinking of leaving my current job. Being that it was a good and reputable company, I said new management is all about efficiency and not the one thing aviation maintenance is all about: safety. Interviewer liked my interview and assured their company doesn't cut any corners in safety vs cost. I get the job. Fast forward 6 months or so, I'm the new guy, so I get the short end and have to work Christmas Eve. Should be a short day. Boss's plane is coming in from Cabo to drop off chartered passengers, fill up on fuel, and take him and family to their vacation home in Aspen. Plane arrives, and as I'm doing my post-flight walk around, I see a big problem that forces me to ground the plane. Boss is clearly not happy. Attempts to force me to make an unapproved repair. I deny to do so, and I'm sent home. Sweet. I didn't quit. It's documented and I get to go home earlier than planned on a holiday. Someone else gets called in to do the Mickey Mouse of a repair. Everyone's happy. Plane taxis out with owner and family. Full on fuel and tries to take off. Whoops. Crappy repair failed. Huge component breaks off and goes into the inlet of the jet engine. Grenades that engine. Plane's brakes overheat trying to stop the heavy ass plane with just one engine. Some fuselage is damaged from the engine that gave out, and the plane finally comes to a stop. FAA comes in. Sweet. Who made this repair? Who accepted to take this flight? What company operates this way? So, dummy tech that tried to make the repair gets his license revoked. The boss owns the charter company, so he's fined a huge amount and is put on a probation with continuous FAA audits, and best of all, the insurance rejected his claim to the engine because it was negligence. This cost him millions, and they couldn't fire me. I got to tell the story over and over and over with a big smile on my face. This story needs to be higher up. This is like the textbook definition of refusing unsafe or unethical work, and the reason why you should. Yeah, there is a time and a place to cut corners. One place I worked was so cheap they'd only buy Windex for cleaning. So that's what you mop the floor with. And the floor always looks streaky because of it. No one dies when that corner gets cut. But you cheap out on plain maintenance. That's criminal. I bet they only stock the almost translucent, rubbish single-ply toilet paper and that slimy pink hand soap as well. The bottom floor of my secondary school was a square that had corridor all the way around. After some incident where a kid got knocked over, they implemented a one-way system. Unfortunately, they were very strict on enforcing it. If you accidentally walked past your class, you couldn't just turn around. They seemed very proud of their new rule, until everyone started showing up late for class because they had to do extra laps of the bottom floor. That's ridiculous. My daughter is experiencing this with COVID one-way rules. They're only actually in school once or twice a week between snow and hybrid, so none of them know where the hell they're going. And if they miss, they have to go around again. A place I used to work had a rule that executive level staff needed to be contactable when on leave. So they had a section on the leave form for the address of where you'd be staying and a contact number. Some knuckle shuffler in ours decided it applied to all staff and the shenanigans began. People would put down the address and phone number of sex shops, sports grounds, medical clinics. I gave the latitude and longitude of the place I was going camping and the UHF frequency channel my radio would be tuned to. I once had a manager tell us we couldn't hang out with each other outside of work unless we invited everyone. No edit. Her name was not Michael Scott. So that's what happened to the kid who never got invited to parties. That's the guy who is paranoid about his employees discussing their salary, or thinking about unionizing, or just plotting to all quit at once to screw over that manager. If they are worried about unionization, stipulating that everyone must be invited might not be the best way to prevent that. Kind of counterproductive to the goal of union busting. A long while back, but my school banned the color pink because a bunch of students were wearing it one October and they thought it was a gang thing. It was for Breast Cancer Awareness Month. The rule didn't go well for them. My principal banned pink silicone bracelets. They were being sold in town to raise money for breast cancer. 6 months later she had to have chemo to treat her breast cancer. It's not really funny, but it is kind of ironic. Edit. Yes, she survived. I still see her around town on occasion. Full remission. Back to better health than before. Did she maybe already know she had cancer and misguidedly banned them because seeing it everywhere all day in her school made her remember and get sad? Oof. Hadn't thought of that. Maybe. To make moving between classes more efficient, they had designated up and down stairways, but they didn't take into account that the stairs were located at the ends of the very long corridors, which meant it was impossible to get to your next class on time. Because of this, no one bothered trying to get to class on time and just blamed the stairway rule. Back in 2011, a company I worked for had the bright idea to block all social networks because, you know, employees should work instead of slacking off on Facebook. I could write volumes of books on the toxic culture in that place, but the owner/president, who lived in a different country and visited about once every few months, was universally feared by everyone, and a few days before his arrival the whole building went into panic mode. So a few weeks after the social network ban, His Royal Highness shows up, and 5 minutes later half of its department is scrambling to his office. Apparently there was an issue with the Wi-Fi, or at least that's what he figured, since he couldn't log on to Facebook. It was fixed in seconds. A few years and 3 promotions later, I make a joke about it with him. Instead of a laugh, I get a confused look. Turns out he still thinks it was some internet problem, since whoever decided to ban social networks didn't have the balls to tell him about it after the incident. Facebook, Twitter and LinkedIn were all blocked by it at my company a few months ago after some other massive issues. Now it makes it really hard for my department, marketing, to do anything. My boss has to fire up the hotspot on his phone and do things with his laptop if we want anything posted to social media. Edit. I should have noted that my boss's phone and laptop are paid for by the company. We also have a marketing coordinator who works remotely that does the bulk of social media postings. In our company we have a exceptions filter for our marketing people to let them access this stuff. Surprised you guys don't have this. My old workplace had exceptions. but it kept revoking the exceptions and even went so far as to issue warnings to my teammates. One day, one guy called it to complain. He was told he needed a manager's approval. Exasperated, I am the manager, reverse Karen. It gets better, though. It decided they will block all sites that were not whitelisted. Literally, they blocked the entire internet except for their whitelist. Our own corporate sites were not whitelisted. That lasted only a short time. I work in marketing. Our former job. It alerted the CMO that some company employees were spending too much time on social media in the office. The CMO asked the marketing VP to address it with the employees. It was the social media team. Every shift, there's a quota we need to fulfill. And then, even if you do fulfill it, you have to keep working until your 8 hours are up. Cue everyone speeding for 4 hours. Having a 3-hour lunch/coffee break. Then slowly moving their ass for an hour. No rule about us taking necessary breaks if we are still capable of reaching the quota. Now we are allowed to stop once we are done. Geez, a 3-hour lunch break is one of the most amazing things I've heard. It gets really fucking boring. For about 3 months in my last job, I would have about 40 minutes work to do per 5-hour shift. There's only so much time you can kill in an office building. This is my work life right now. We've reopened after COVID, but I'm at a different location and it's so slow. I have maybe an hour of actual work spread out over the whole 5-hour day 5 days a week. It was fun at first, but now it's just depressing. I can't wait to transfer somewhere else. Do you have the means of watching Netflix, or scanning Reddit, or working on your own project? Or can everyone see your screen? Late 80s high school rule was no shorts. Classmate came for an exam with basketball shorts on that were below her knees. Teacher made her go home to change. She came back in a macro miniskirt and wrote her exam. My high school principal was known for sending girls home to change if their bra straps were showing. In my sophomore year he tried to send one of my classmates home, but she was like, "Nah, I've got a change of clothes. No need to send me home." So she went to the bathroom, took her bra off, and made a show of putting it in her locker. The principal was pissed, but couldn't do anything about it since she technically was following the dress code. It became a thing. Like, hundreds of high school girls removing their bra at school or just showing up braless as a big fuck you to the principal. As a woman, that rule made me feel incredibly self-conscious about being a girl. Like bra straps. Oh no. Good on the students for balking at it. Yay, when I was younger and approaching the need to wear a bra I was so worried about people seeing the straps because of rules like this. Completely unnecessary though, it's a refkin strap, get over it. Couldn't buy drinks at lunch with cash money. Had to buy some voucher. They were just cheaply made laminated pieces of paper. This was 2001. I was 13 and bored. Scanned the vouchers and printed them out on paper that kinda matched the color of the vouchers and laminated them myself. They were horrible made and not even the right color on the backside. Also crudely cut out. I made about 100 of them, have passed them out after I tried paying with them for myself and encountered no problems. Made some new friends and upped production. Took them about 3 weeks to find out, but by then the fakes ones had intermingled with the real ones and had already been resold to students via the student office. About half of the vouchers sold were fakes. Drinks were cash only from then on. They had no choice to accept the fakes one for a little while longer though, as they had sold and charged for some of them. Did they ever find out it was you by some error? Nope. I got really lucky. I'm sure fraud isn't something you want on your record. To be clear, I was young and stupid, and I liked testing out the limits of where I could go. I even remember being a bit bossy when ordering, so the lady taking the vouchers would snap back at me, not paying attention to the ticket, while I handed it to her OFC. It was a good lesson in people skills. I'm actually more amazed that no one ratted me out. But then again, the school never made a big fuss about it. Guessing they didn't want to put out a storm about how they were also selling the fake vouchers after a while. My favorite part of the story is how you would egg on the lunch lady to get her to yell at you to distract her from the real crime. That's brilliant. I would not want to get on your bad side. I did end up in state care later in life, not for any crimes. to be clear, and the cookies and stuff were heavily regulated, one per evening, and kept in a locked closet. So naturally, once the staff member would open the closet, we would sometimes distract them with a small argument or fight, a stupid question, etc. And while their back was turned, someone would quickly snatch 15 Mars bars or something and divide them up later when we were alone. I fucking hate magicians, but I totally get when they say that distraction is 80% of the trick. My HS had a smoking in the bathroom problem, and to solve it, rather than having a teacher outside the restrooms during hall time, they locked all the bathrooms except one. This made it so you had to wait in a stupid long line with 1200 other students trying to use 3 stalls for each gender in the 10 minutes between classes. During class time, they had the assistant principal sit outside the one open bathroom, and they would check your ID and sign you in and out, and only one student in at a time. 1. Major health code violation. 2. Kids would be holding it all day. 3. Girls on their cycle needed the restroom and would often have to get a pass from class to go use the restroom. BC, the lines were too long during breaks. 4. Smokers still smoked in the gym locker-rooms during changing time. This rule didn't solve anything but made it very unhygienic and rather annoying to just use the restroom. A rule similar to this is in place in my school, so I usually use the bathroom during classes. 1. They're usually icing to teacher/security outside during any time, so yay. 2. On the times that there are adults there, they're usually being kinda bitchy. 3. The bathrooms stink like a piss bucket. 2 assholes who would wish got kicked in the gonads by their chairs afterwards threw a wet paper towel on my head while I took a dump. 4. The principal is now threatening to lock the bathrooms again because of assholes like number 3. If you are new to TattleTale TV, please subscribe. We have new videos every day. Stay tuned for more coming up next.